Hey there, it's Freddie Cruz. And suffice it to say that if you were to use 9 too many eggs in a cake recipe, all you'd have to do is throw away the batter and start all over. Maybe you have to go to the store and get more eggs, but you get to start over. But what about doing it in front of a national audience on Food Network? That's what happened to Elizabeth Hale and her husband Jerry from Cake Fine Pastry. She is today's guest on Cruise Through HTX, where we share stories of the individuals, organizations, and businesses that make the greater Houston area great. And Elizabeth was so much fun to talk to. We talk about the first cake she ever made. We talk about the debacle on Food Network. She's got such a great attitude about it. And of course, the husband-wife dynamic of running not just a bakery, but also a coffee shop. Learn more about Elizabeth Hale at cakefinepastry.com. This episode is brought to you by Speak Podcasting, my media company, with shows like Let's Talk About Your Breasts, hosted by Dorothy Gibbons, co-founder and CEO of the Rose Breast Center of Excellence. Listen to Let's Talk About Your Breasts wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoy this conversation with my friend Elizabeth Hale, please consider liking and subscribing to the show, and of course, sharing from my website at cruisethroughhtx.com.
Hi, I'm Ed Sheeran. This is Bruno Mars.
Hey, it's Katy Perry.
This is your man Flo Rida with Freddie Cruz.
This is AJ Mitchell with Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Freddie Cruz.
Tell your chico pick Mr. 305 and you already know what it is.
My name is Freddie, and it's time to cruise through HTX. Do you remember the first thing that you ever baked? And was it delicious?
Yes, I do. The first thing I ever baked was my kid's birthday cake. And it was amazing because it was out of a box.
It's hard to mess up Betty Crocker.
It's really hard to mess her up. I mean, add 3 eggs and oil and mix it together. What else is there? How else can you mess it up? But from scratch, I would say the Spritz cookies are my favorite.
Spritz cookies?
Yeah, Spritz cookies. Okay, so it's like a batter that you put into a tube and you push it out of the tube and it makes a little cute little cookie designs, like little Christmas trees, little wreaths or whatever. And those are what I like butter Spritz sugar cookies.
Going back to the first cake, the quote unquote cake that you ever made for your kid's birthday. Was that was that something that sort of put that spark in your mind that, hey, well, obviously this is easy, but I think I want to bake for a living? No, you're shaking your head. No. What was the moment that did it for you?
That was the moment where I said, I don't ever want to do this for a living. That was the moment.
And now look at you. You've been on Food Network and everything.
Yeah. So for me, the first moment, I was in music school. I was going to school for music because I'm a musician. But when I saw Duff Goldman on the Food Network, that was it for me. I'm like, oh, wow, I want to try that when I saw him on Ace of Cakes. And that was it for me. So, yeah, the 3D cakes are my jam.
Yeah, and you've got quite an impressive gallery of cakes on the websites. I mean, purses,
thank you,
monsters, all the way down to simple designs. What would you say would be like the most wild design you've ever been asked for? You get the request, you're like, okay. I mean, I'll do it, but this you're out of your mind.
Well, okay. So for me, I'm a little backwards than most cake decorators, cake creators. I love the outside of the box stuff. I love making cakes in the shape of hamburgers and shoes and things of that nature, cars and people. I hate doing sheet cakes. When someone asks me, can I do a sheet cake? I'm like, why? Why?
Boring.
Really?
Yeah.
It is. They are boring, but I've grown to love them also. I've grown to love them.
Yeah.
But if I do another Paw Patrol cake, I will, no, I don't want to do another Paw Patrol cake.
I'm going to go Paw Patrol and I'm going to tase you. Oh, wait, Paw Patrol probably doesn't.
Right?
Don't use a taser.
No. Only if I was going to do it for the SPCA or something like that, then I would do a Paw Patrol cake.
You run Cake Fine Pastry with your husband, Jerry. And so
I do.
I love hearing stories about people that are operating businesses with their spouse, significant other, with their family members.
Yes.
What's that like? Scale of 1 to 10, like how chaotic are most days?
Scale of 1 to 10, absolute 10, highly recommend, but don't recommend at the same time. Um, there are the days because he's the baker and he's the definite baker and I'm the decorator. So it is a push pull balancing act. When he's in the kitchen, I'm not in the kitchen. We do have a storefront location, so I'm on the office side when he's in the kitchen side. So we don't really butt against each other very often. No. But we also run a coffee shop too. And that's where we're on this floor at the same time. That's when it's kind of like, who does the staff listen to? You know, we don't know who to talk. They don't know who to talk to. Well, Miss Liz is here. She's the queen. Who do we put? Mr. Jerry is here too. So, you know, so it's kind of one of those things.
Talking about how you are the decorator, he's the baker. What's that dynamic like when it comes to him preparing a cake that has to be edible, obviously, but then you are the artiste, and so you're creating a purse or you're creating a person. So chemistry and gravity, I imagine, comes into play where it's yes, we want it to be edible, but you also want it to look cool. And so how does all of that work?
The logistics of building a cake is rather simple. As a decorator, I know what I need to make this cake look exactly what it needs. And Jerry is very receptive when I'm like, okay, I need 8-inch round cakes, 3 of them chocolate, the rest of them strawberry. He'll make exactly that and then turn it over to me and I'll take care of the rest. There are other cakes that I don't touch, like the house cakes, like the cakes that are always in the bakery. He takes care of that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that you can whip up and get it, you know, grab and go, stuff like that. But when it comes to the custom style, that's where it's in my ballpark. If I mess it up, then I'm like, I don't want to tell him I messed it up. So I just make it work.
Would it be safe to say that you have a sort of template to go by where you're creating these 3-dimensional cakes that look like actual things, going back to purses, shoes, monsters for Halloween. And so you have a sort of, it's like a templated system. So it's round cakes, square cakes, rectangular sheet cakes. And then you go from there, and then that's how you sculpt everything. I
haven't done very many cakes twice, except for I'll say some of the handbag cakes. I've done them several times. So those definitely have I need this to make that happen. But on some of the shoe cakes, I can't do that. I just have to what am I going to need in my head? I don't have it written on paper where you can just go flip it in the book. It's all up here. Like, I don't know how to translate it from here to paper so that it could be done like that. Like when we did a barrel cake, I'm like, well, I need 4 10-inch rounds, 2 8-inch rounds, and 1 6-inch round or something like that. So I can carve it out to the shape of a barrel. Bottle cakes are the same way. They start as a sheet cake. They end up looking like a Remy Martin bottle.
More of my conversation with Elizabeth Hale is coming up in less than 60 seconds. Cruise Through HTX is brought to you by Speak Podcasting. That's my media company. If you've ever had an idea for a podcast of your own, or if you want to leverage the power of other people's audiences, you can hit me up. Freddie at speakpodcasting.com. Let's chat. That's Freddie with a Y at SPEKE podcasting.com. Shifting the conversation to your time at Food Network. And I mean, obviously, when people see the badge on your chef's jacket, they want to know, what's it like? So I want to know, what's it like?
Oh my God. It was so fun. Jerry went with me. He was there. We were both on scene together. It was a great deal of fun. I just love being in front of the cameras, and I got really nervous, but I didn't really show it very well, I think. What happens is you have this allotted time frame, and you are supposed to make your cake within that time frame. And if you mess up, you've lost time, and when I did mess up, I messed up on one of the cakes. I put 12 eggs when it was supposed to only have 3 eggs. So we had to start over. So that kind of sucked, but whatever, it was great. we didn't win, but it was just so much fun, Freddie. It was so much fun. getting to hang out with some of the best up there, meeting Giada, I think that was her name. I highly recommend it.
Okay, so was it a simple typo and that's why you put 12 eggs instead of 3? Because that's sort of a big difference. It's not like putting 4 instead of 3. That's 12. What happened?
I cracked a whole bowl. Okay, I knew going in it was 3 eggs. Three. 1, 2, 3. I knew going in it was 3 eggs. I saw the bowl of dozen. I saw the dozen. And I'm like, I just start cracking them.
Oh.
And I'm like, I should have stopped at 3, but I just kept going.
So something internally just told you, subconscious kind of.
All my eggs were in the basket, which was the problem. All the eggs were in the basket.
Well, and then you're under pressure because you've got to get your cake finished within a certain amount of time, and so your brain is kind of just laser focused on the task at hand, and maybe not the nuances of, well, Jerry's and Liz's recipe calls for 3, but then you see the 12, and there's like a glitch in the matrix.
Right. So let me tell you, we're mic'd, right? Like we have mics taped to our skin. Like I'll say like right here, my mic was under my shirt.
Yeah.
So they could hear me say, "Oh crap, I just put a dozen eggs in the batter." So all the cameras that were on the floor on the other 6 contestants that were there came all around us.
Oh, of course.
And I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? I didn't know. So I was just like, we're just going to put these in the oven. They're going right in the oven, Jerry, and we're just going to see what happens. I was just like, oh my God, because the producers can hear whatever's going on in the background. Yeah. And if I say, oh crap, if I drop something, camera, woo, I'm just like, oh my God. So it was so much fun. The humidity level in LA versus Houston, completely different.
Okay, in a good way or in a bad way?
In a bad way when it came to decorating using the fondant.
Okay.
The fondant in Houston, I'm used to it. And I had to keep adding powdered sugar to the fondant. The fondant is the stuff that goes on the outside of the cake to make the cakes look great.
Right.
So I had to keep adding powdered sugar, which took so much time. And there were just little things that I could have saved time on. I have no doubt that we could have won first place, but we came in second. That's okay. Whatever.
Okay, I want to know what the texture was like with 9 too many eggs in the cake.
You could throw it in somebody's window and they'd be like, "What is that?" It was very dense.
Okay.
But yeah, our cake was called the Texas Mule. And because it was alcohol related, but it was a baby shower, so we couldn't use alcohol. So we used like ginger beer, strawberries, and ginger in the actual cake. And it was like when we made it in Houston, it was delicious. Like if we made it properly, it would have been like, mwah, it was delicious. So yeah.
Well, transitioning the conversation from something you did with 9 too many eggs to home bakers. And I feel like this is a perfect segue because there are home bakers out there, whether it's cookies, cakes, pies, you've got them all at Cake Fine Pastry. What do you see as far as like, messing up a recipe or like what's the biggest error, the biggest snafu somebody can make?
They don't charge enough. They don't charge what they're worth. It's not that it's like, oh, well, you really screwed it up. They know they screwed it up. So they don't really ask questions like that. They're just like, I just, for some reason, I can't get my business going. I don't know what's going on. I'm just not making any money. I'm like, well, how much are you charging for that specific cake? And then they say, well, that's X amount of dollars. And I'm like, no, you're not charging enough for your cake. You're not charging enough for your time. Your time is very valuable. So I think in that aspect, that's because if they're not making enough cakes, they're not going to learn the process to fix what they're doing wrong, number one. And anyway, to answer your question, long story short, most of the time is the oven. Your oven's too hot. A lot of times they say bake on 350 and I bake on 325 to slow rise it.
So 25 degrees makes that much of a difference.
Oh, yeah.
And then going back to the business aspect of it, you're talking about not charging enough.
I hear all these moms, because I was one of those moms where I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning decorating cakes, and then we get right back up at 7 o'clock because the kids got to go to school in the morning. It's tough when you think you're doing something, and because someone's giving you an amount of money, you're like, oh, I'm finally making money. But in the back end, you're not making money. You're not paying attention because you want to pay for marketing. You want to pay for all the people to see your awesome work. But if you're not going to charge for it, you're not going to have the money to pay for marketing. Word of mouth isn't the greatest thing. And, doing business with your family is also not the greatest thing because they want you to do it for free. Therefore, you're undercharging for your work 100%.
We're all happy to spend $7 on a latte at a big chain place that may or may not be overrated. But then we go into Ms. Liz's bakery and it's, oh, hey, Cousin Liz.
Hey!
Hook me up. We're family. I know we haven't seen each other and I'm a second cousin twice removed, but still.
I know. Wait, who's your mama? Who's your mama? I'm not your mama.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And that, and that's something, I think it's also like this thing where, well, we just want to be loved by our family. And so we'll sort of oblige ourselves to do that. And I admire that in you and that you're a big stickler for, no, it's my business because you just want to get along with everybody.
Right. We've lost family members behind that. We've lost respect behind that. My dad pays for his stuff. My mom pays for her stuff. But outside of that, everybody kind of wants it for free. I'll say my husband's family, they've been really good about paying for stuff as well. But there are some, it's just like, all right, whatever.
What do you see as the future of what it is you're doing? I mean, things are rapidly changing, especially in a town like Houston where the food scene is robust and dynamic altogether. So what is your vision for the next year, 5 years?
So for Plum Coffee Shop, which is a completely separate entity, there are two separate buildings. People think it's all in the same when I talk about them together. We would like a couple different locations for that one. And the thing about that one is because we don't follow the Jolly Green Giant, we try to make our own way with that. So we're constantly coming up with new recipes, constantly, feeling the market out, feeling the market. When COVID hit for us at the coffee shop, it was like almost a death sentence, but we survived because we have a drive-through. Cake Fine Pastry, because we didn't have any employees at that moment, it survived because I'm still here. So that was I guess the best word is caveat for that because we were here, we didn't go away. So for cake, I'm looking for decorators so that we can build the brand bigger and maybe move in town. I don't know, I would love to do a lot more wedding cakes, a lot more groom's cakes. I would love to step out of Cake Fine Pastry eventually and go on to do a music career. That's really what I want to do. But right now, cake is where I'm at, and I'm okay with that.
Well, the two of us met at a Girl Scout event called Just Desserts, and your implementation of the lemonade was flawless. And that might be understating it. I can't think of another word, but that's the first word to come to mind. What do you see as like your favorite thing to cook with? Whether it's a Girl Scout cookie or something else that may be sort of outside the box, seeing as how you are sort of that kind of visionary that doesn't really adhere to like, oh, this is the traditional way. We're going to take this and put it in here and it's going to be amazing.
I really like to really dish out chocolate. Chocolate is my favorite flavor. So chocolate, any type of chocolate, like I want to try dark chocolate, like the richest dark chocolate that it's almost like baker's chocolate where it doesn't have a sweet flavor. I would love to figure out how to make that taste good in a cake. We've done recently, we do a strawberry champagne, which has a strawberry cake with champagne in the actual cake and then mixing chocolate in that. Oh my God, what? It's amazing. Chocolate covered strawberry cake. What? That's not on our menu, but like you can order it. But I love chocolate ganache. It's so delicious. You can almost drink it with a straw. It's amazing.
Everybody, please check out Plum Coffee Shop and, of course, Cake Fine Pastry, owned, operated by husband-wife duo. We're talking to Elizabeth. We got Elizabeth and Jerry, the brains behind the operations, talking to Liz Hale. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the podcast. Thank
you so much for having me. It was so great and so much fun, and I would love a great opportunity to do it again.